Super Smash Bros. Melee is a 2D fighting game released by Nintendo in 2001 for the Nintendo GameCube. The main gameplay of Super Smash Bros. Melee consists of fighting as or against classic Nintendo characters and attempting to hit them off the stage. The more a character is hit, the higher their percentage gets, which makes them more prone to flying off. Every character in Melee has their own unique moveset, for the most part, but Melee also has unique items and stages in the game, which keeps the gameplay fresh. There are also a ton of different modes to choose from, like stock matches, stamina mode, and special modes. The possibilities in Smash Melee are practically endless. In terms of presentation, Melee looks and sounds great. The soundtrack is awesome and filled with classic Nintendo bangers, and the stages and character design look pretty good, even if they are a bit dated. All of the characters in Melee also have different outfits to choose from when fighting, which is a nice touch. For single-player content, Melee has a couple options to choose from. There's Classic Mode, which has you fighting against a bunch of different characters in the Master Hand in interesting situations. Another mode is Adventure Mode, where you basically travel through a bunch of different Nintendo games. Additionally, there's All-Star Mode, which puts you up against every character in the game with only 3 recovery hearts. On top of that, there are event matches which are neat, and the choice to fight against CPUs in the normal battle mode. This game has so many features. For multiplayer, Melee is awesome to play with friends. In Melee, you can play Smash with up to 3 other people. With the previously mentioned items, stages, and different character movesets, Melee can get intense and awesome. On top of that, the multiplayer can get extremely competitive, due to Melee having tons of crazy professional techniques like wave dashing and L cancelling. The competitive scene in Melee is insane to watch and still extremely relevant 20 years later. My only issues with Melee are the clone characters and the fact that most characters in this game aren't very viable. Also, you can't use the C stick in single player mode. Just to recap, I gave Melee a 9.5 out of 10. In my opinion, it's the best Super Smash Bros. Game. I know a lot of people say it's Ultimate, but I leave those people with one question. Does Smash Ultimate have Poke Floats? Bioshock is a first-person shooter/RPG released in 2007 by 2K Games for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC. The main gameplay of Bioshock consists of roaming around the underwater world of Rapture and using a variety of different guns and plasmids to kill the inhabitants and progress through the story. Plasmids give the players crazy abilities like telekinesis and electric shock. Bioshock also introduces the concept of tonics, which serve as boosters for the players and give them more advantages in combat. This makes the gameplay in Bioshock never get old. Also, in the game, there are a few big daddies roaming around each level, who serve as the boss fights. They each protect little sisters and drop the precious resource Atom, giving players the ability to purchase more plasmids and tonics. It's awesome. In terms of presentation, Bioshock is hands down the best looking and most immersive video game I have ever played. This game's design is absolutely breathtaking, the visuals are so atmospheric, and the sound design and music is so creepy and fitting, and it's just perfect. This game looks and sounds perfect. Bioshock's story is about a man named Jack who gets in a plane crash and lands next to the entrance down to Rapture, an underwater capitalist utopia destroyed by corruption and malpractice. Bioshock also has an insane twist ending regarding Atlas, the main guy. There are also tons of interesting and memorable characters to meet, like Sander Cohen, Peach Wilkins, and Andrew Ryan, the creator of Rapture. The unique thing about Bioshock's story is the way it is told. There are almost no cutscenes in the game, since the story is primarily told through diaries left by civilians or writings on the wall. There's so much lore behind Bioshock, it's absolutely incredible. In terms of replayability, Bioshock does decent. The levels are very linear, but the ethical dilemma regarding harvesting little sisters makes Bioshock 100% worth a second playthrough. Not to mention, this game has multiple endings. My only issue with Bioshock is that the hacking minigame gets old really quickly and the security cameras get really annoying at times. To recap, I gave this game a 9.5 out of 10. The varying gameplay, unique storytelling, twist ending, and crazy atmosphere make Bioshock one of my favorite games ever made. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an open-world adventure game developed by Nintendo for the Switch and Wii U. Breath of the Wild's gameplay consists of exploring the open world and completing dungeons and shrines. In this game, there is an insane amount of things to do and see, like collecting Korok seeds and doing shrines or side quests, and Link's arsenal of weapons is extremely expansive. On top of the average sword, shield, and bow combat, Link now has runes through his Sheikah Slate, which allow him to stop things in time, pick up magnetic objects, freeze platforms, and throw bombs. Completing dungeons and shrines allows you to upgrade your health and stamina, or gives you special powers from the champions. Breath of the Wild also allows you to climb practically everything and use a hang glider, which makes exploring a ton of fun. On top of all of those, Link has to take lots of factors into account, like the vulnerability of a weapon and the weather. There's also a ridiculous amount of stuff to do and see in this game, and the way it is formatted allows for so many creative and fun possibilities. For presentation, Breath of the Wild looks and sounds fantastic. The visuals are stunning, and the combination of ambient music while exploring and orchestral tracks in the main areas, like stables, villages, and divine beasts, is great. It really makes things interesting. The story in Breath of the Wild is classic Zelda. It consists of Link beating the bosses in the temples and saving Princess Zelda from the evil Ganon. But it takes place in a post-apocalyptic Hyrule. The story is definitely not the main focus of Breath of the Wild like in other games, but it's extremely fitting for the environment. The voice acting is also pretty good. In terms of replayability, this is all I'm going to say. There are 120 shrines in the game and 900 Korok seeds to collect. It would take a really long time to complete the entire game, and it feels like you discover something new every time you get back into it. It's ridiculously replayable. My only issues with Breath of the Wild is the fact that there are a lot of loading screens and the temples and shrines don't look amazing. They all have the same brownish color, which pales in comparison to other games. To recap, I gave Breath of the Wild a 10 out of 10. Not only is this game entertaining, unique, and fun, it was extremely innovative and changed the course of video game history forever. Red Dead Redemption is an action-adventure game created by Rockstar and released in 2010 for Xbox 360 and PS3. The gameplay of Red Dead Redemption consists of mostly over-the-shoulder duck-and-shoot combat and riding around on your horse in New Austin, but Red Dead also has multiple different ranching missions, like cattle herding, and many different mini-games in the open world like poker and blackjack, horseshoes, and five-finger fillet. Also, Red Dead Redemption introduces the Deadeye mechanic, which allows you to slow down time while aiming, similar to bullet time in Max Payne. There are 3 main sections in the game: the Introduction, Mexico, and Blackwater, and each is filled with interesting characters and varying missions. For presentation, Red Dead Redemption has a very distinct Western feel, which is extremely immersive and beautiful. This game truly looks phenomenal and realistic, but the character models do feel a bit dated, probably because they are. This game also has very memorable music and sound design. The ambient songs are very fitting in the desert, and the combat music is awesome. For story, Red Dead Redemption absolutely demolishes this category. Red Dead Redemption tells the gripping tale of John Marston, an ex-gang member who is blackmailed by the US government into hunting down the other remaining members in his gang, those being Javier Escuela, Bill Williamson, and Dutch Vanderland. Don't want to spoil anything, but the ending to this game is iconic, surprising, and heartbreaking. The story is amazing, 10 out of 10, no doubt. In terms of replayability, Red Dead Redemption has very linear storytelling and mission design, which means that the missions take place in a specific order. However, the story is phenomenal, and the game has many open-world elements like side quests and minigames, which make this game pretty replayable. My only problem with this game is that some of the missions get repetitive, and the cattle herding is super tedious. But other than that, this game is excellent. To recap, I gave this game a 9.5 out of 10. It looks and sounds amazing and tells a fantastic story. Every negative in this game is overshadowed immensely by the positives. Play this game. Period. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is an action-adventure game developed by Nintendo and released in 1998 on the Nintendo 64. This was the first time that the Zelda series was brought into the third dimension. The gameplay basically boils down to roaming around Hyrule, time traveling between old and young Link, and dungeon crawling to help the locals and save Princess Zelda from the evil Ganondorf. In total, there are 8 main temples in the game, and after you complete all of them, you go to the final boss. The best part about the gameplay is the strategic use of items, suits, and unlockables in the temples. Nothing is more rewarding than finally solving a puzzle in a temple or beating a boss. However, the combat in the game is very basic and somewhat boring. In terms of presentation, Ocarina of Time looks and sounds fantastic. I mean, this game is old, so the graphics are just a little janky, but Hyrule itself looks amazing in terms of colors and design. Even with the technological limitations at the time, it truly feels like Hyrule is a real and epic place. Also, the music is absolutely phenomenal in this game. I love the gameplay mechanic with the ocarina, and most of the songs of the game were absolute bangers, like these. Also, the sound design is awesome. The story of Ocarina of Time is interesting, engaging, and all around mesmerizing. There are so many memorable moments in the plot, and the ending is iconic. Ocarina does so much to stray away from the cliché damsel in distress story, and there are dozens of interesting characters to meet. No doubt my favorite Zelda story. For replayability, Ocarina of Time somewhat falls flat, because the game is so linear. There are a couple cool side quests to do, but overall there's a specific path you have to take. However, the story alone makes this game well worth the second try. My main problem with this game is the fact that you essentially need a guide for certain parts of it, which is very annoying at times. Also, Navi the Fairy won't shut up, and the Water Temple is brutal. Just to recap, I gave this game a 9.5 out of 10. Easily my favorite Zelda game, probably my favorite game of all time.